Reebok are back, and not just as a retro brand living off of nostalgia. Throughout the 90s and early 2000s, Reebok had some of the biggest players in the game on their books and even provided kits for clubs like Atletico Madrid, Liverpool and Manchester City. And then they disappeared from the elite boot conversation completely, until now. 30 years since it first hit the pitch, Reebok are back with their most recognisable boot, the Sidewinder. A modern remake on a cult classic designed for players who value comfort, control and confidence on the ball. But before we get into the boot, let's talk about what made Reebok one of football's biggest brands. The name Reebok almost never existed. Back in the 50s, brothers Joe and Jeff Foster were looking for a name for their footwear company. They were trawling through an Afrikaans English dictionary and they stumbled across the name Reebok. Fast, agile African antelope, and instantly it clicked. Speed, agility, movement, everything they wanted their brand to represent. And then they anglicised it to Reebok, and that is exactly how one of sport's most recognisable brands was born. When I think of Reebok football, one player stands out instantly: Ryan Giggs. And while players change their boot deals almost as often as they do haircuts and girlfriends, Giggsy stayed loyal throughout his 24-year career. And honestly, it couldn't have been a better fit. Explosive, direct and elegant. The perfect embodiment of what Reebok wanted their brand to be. And if there's one memory that sums it up, it's that famous solo goal against Arsenal in the '99 FA Cup semi-final. You know the one. Half the pitch, 4 defenders beaten, shirt swinging round the head. Football heritage. But Giggs wasn't the only superstar wearing Reebok. Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Iker Casillas, and of course, the man so good they named him twice, JJ Okocha. Reebok had serious star power. What's interesting about Reebok's footballing history is that many fans remember the moments before they remember the boots, but the boots were there. Giggsy's won the goal against Arsenal. Dennis Bergkamp's outrageous touch spin and finish against Newcastle, still one of the best goals in Premier League history. And then there's Iker Casillas, the 2010 World Cup, Iron Robin racing for about to change footballing history. And Casillas makes one of the greatest saves of all time on the biggest stage possible. And on his feet, a pair of Reeboks. Truly, they have been a part of some remarkable moments. But perhaps no moment was bigger than this. USA 94, Brazil's captain Dunga stood on the podium with his hands on the World Cup trophy as Brazil won their 4th World Cup. And on his feet, a pair of black and white Reeboks with a fold over tongue. One of football's most iconic images and proof that Reebok's footballing history goes further than most people remember. Fast forward to now, and Reebok are writing yet another chapter in their illustrious history. The Sidewinders returned after 30 years, but with modern technologies, modern materials, and for the modern footballer in mind, because football's changed. Players are faster, the game's quicker, and boots now are more specialised than ever before. So while the Sidewinder keeps its original identity, Reebok have updated it for the demands of the modern game. But let's talk tech. It's a synthetic upper, it's surprisingly soft, which, you know, I enjoy, but it's still got that firmness about it when you're making contact with the ball. On the instep as well, and also on the outstep, you've got this thing called Supra Skin. Now for Reebok, think of nanostrike tech in the Predator or the grip knit on a Phantom. This is their equivalent, and this is who the boots are aimed at. It's for the Pred, Phantom and future players. This is where that boot sits in the market. On the sole plate, it's got the power spine sort of tech about it. Really, really firm underfoot, but because of how soft the insole is, you don't really feel it. It's comfy, and it's an enjoyable experience when wearing. But one thing I'm unsure of still is the added stud towards the heel. Now, Reebok say that it's for additional traction when you're planting your foot to give you greater stability so you can strike the ball cleaner. And there is some science in it. Your foot's planted and you can't really continue to move with it. It's an interesting one. I'll be interested to see how other wearers find it. The studs themselves underneath, they are narrow. They are built for dynamic, explosive movements, for that agility, like I mentioned earlier with Giggsy. And one thing that you do have to be wary of is how narrow the toe box is. To compare it, I'd probably think you're looking at around the New Balance Furon in terms of how narrow it is up top. But one thing I do love is how easy it is to access the boot and actually get into. It's ridiculously flexible. I mean, you can see how wide I can make the boot here, and the actual knitted upper keeps your foot locked in. It's a really good lockdown feel. And with this additional bit of knit here where the Reebok is, it reminds me of the old Phantom from back in the day. Loads of padding around the heel for that locked in feel as well. Price wise, the Elite model comes in at £215 British and the Pro models sit in at 125. Professional players wearing it are going to be Dusan Vlahovic and Trevor Chalobah. They're the main ones, but I'm sure Reebok have got more on their roster to come. In terms of comfort and fit, I must say I'm pleasantly surprised. I had my worries beforehand seeing this sole plate and wondering how firm it'd be, but when I put my foot inside the boot, those worries went away. The insole's incredibly soft, and the padding around the heel really does give you that security and keeps you locked in. In terms of fit, I'll probably drop down to an 8.5 if I'm wearing a 9 in a Predator or a Phantom. This is a sample size and it is in an 8, and it was a very tight squeeze. It's a difficult one. I can't really say if it's for narrow feet or wide feet because you've got so much flexibility in the entry here, but it does get narrow at the toe box. The boot's available to shop online at prodirectsoccer as of the 24th of June in an exclusive window. Whether you're old enough to remember Reebok in all their glory days or young enough that this is the first time you're seeing their boot on pitch, one thing is clear. This isn't a nostalgia play. Reebok are a brand rich in footballing history, stepping back out onto the world's biggest stage. And as the Sidewinder releases 30 years after its original date, it's finally stepping foot back where it belongs.